And welcome to Streaming Beyond Video Games. It is Sunday. I know we're all starting to probably get on that, downward tired after the weekend. Because it kind of seems like DragonCon started on Tuesday this time. I don't know about y'all, but whew, it's been fun. But anyway, I'm Phaedra Black, and I haven't streamed in a while because life got in the way. But when I did stream, I did do like Lego builds, all those fun things. That got a little expensive. So I'm kind of going to be letting everybody else talk a little bit more about what they do for streaming beyond video games this year. So let everybody introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Rob Roberts. Is this on? Oh, I have a loud voice anyway. You probably can all hear me. Except Twitch might not be able to. I don't know. But hi, I actually have this is kind of meta because I have a very long-running podcast about video games. So we've been doing a podcast about video games, live internet show since 2002 is when we started with my buddies. It's called Orange Lounge Radio. And during the pandemic, we used to get together in person to record, but during the pandemic, we had to pivot to doing that digital, as a lot of people, kind of had to pivot their real life things into some sort of digital format. So we actually pivoted our show onto Twitch. So even though I am a big gaming podcaster and I do gaming streaming on my personal channel, I think part of my contributions today are talking about doing an actual podcast recording, but on Twitch, and how that kind of pivot sort of worked, and doing what is essentially a radio show, actually. Never was intended to be Orange Lounge Video, just Orange Lounge Radio, and how we're doing that on Twitch. So great to be here.
Hey everyone, I'm Hugh with Steve. I do YouTube and TikTok videos. When I stream, it's as part of Botched D&D podcast. We do live stream of our podcast, which is a improv comedy with a window dressing of D&D 5e. Our current seasons are SCP horror flavor, and that's most of what we do. I also have done some streaming in the past solo, where I do streaming of my research and editing portions of my content creation, which some people seem to like as well.
Hi, I'm Chunky Kong. I also stream Watch the D&D podcast live with Steve and a few others. Oh, you know this guy. Like Phaedra, I haven't streamed in a while, but I have done some cooking streams because I am a chef professionally, so those have been a lot of fun. And I'll kick it over to...
Hello, I'm Winston Bean. I stream over on Twitch. I'm a blacksmith. I stream me forging stuff from everything like this spear right over here. Yeah. And I, like Chonky and Phaedra, I haven't streamed in a little bit. Life getting in the way, but there's a lot of challenges that I've had come in with that as well. So, talk about that.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's been having to focus on work a lot more lately, but it definitely makes it to where it's really important then with the streaming beyond video games. That's something you want to get into, that we are able to kind of lead you into that direction on affordable ways to do that with the different equipment that you would have to have with streaming beyond video games. Because like with video games, you need, a good powerful computer that can run the video games and run your stream. And so that takes a lot of different equipment out there for you to use. But for non-video game streaming, you can kind of use different equipment. Like you don't need as powerful a computer because you're not having to have your computer do double duty as far as uploading and downloading at the same time. But like with your blacksmithing, I mean, I know your equipment's a whole different story, because I know we've talked about it before, where the heat aspect and the sound aspect. Do you want to go a little bit into like how you do that?
Yeah, with the heat aspect, it's always a trials of trying to figure out where can I put a camera that will not get melted, or where can I lay some cables to go to this other camera that I won't trip over or drop hot metal on and then have electrical fires, because those are not fun. Well, I'm also have other fires going on. As well with sound, just trying to figure out best balances through programs, and then best kind of mics. I use lapel mics for the most part, just because I'm usually not able to stand in one place at any given time while I'm working. So having something that's on me while I'm walking around and able to still talk to the stream really helps with what I'm doing.
I know doing a podcast style, you are able to interact with, your viewers in real time. You're able to read like what they're saying, what they're talking about. You're able to interact with those. But I know you've mentioned with the blacksmithing stuff, you read chat periodically,
Yes.
and you'll sit there and be like, oh hey,
Yeah,
I'll
like
get there
I'll be
eventually.
working on something for like 10 minutes of just hammering it out because it has all that heat in there. I have a bunch of projects I'm working on at one point. Then I'll like finally look up and see the computer. I'm like, oh, I have like a few messages. Like, okay, give me 1 second, everybody. I'll read that in 1 minute.
So how many cameras do you use?
I use
yours?
3.
You use 3?
And I'll like switch between 2 of them. I'll switch between depending on what's going on. But generally, I have 3 that are set up and pointing at different angles around where I'm working at any given time. So
For the podcast, do y'all do those like in the same spot, or do you have people like dial in from Discord, like you're having guests on? How would you guys do that?
So the majority of botched is in Pennsylvania. I'm in Louisiana. They make HDMI cables that long, but they typically lose a little bit of fidelity at that length. So we do our meetings over Zoom, and we plug our Zoom windows into OBS to stream with. So we're working with a couple of different cameras, a couple of different programs, and it's just knowing how to set up those windows in OBS and construct that environment. And as long as doing it over Zoom is actually somewhat advantageous because a lot of the software has noise gates and stuff for the difference in environments, which makes it sound like it's from the same environment, even if it's in a couple of different rooms that have a slightly different sound.
For us, we used to all be in the same space and record, but we were at that time, we weren't on Twitch yet. We were using, I'm going to get old grandpa up on the chair, but we were doing Live 365 back in the early 2000s was where we started. And then we were on Shoutcast Radio after that. So that was, kind of the pre-Twitch things. But then, as less and less people were seeking out things on Shoutcast, I know it's still thriving enough. There is a dedicated fan base, but when you're doing something that's very technologically forward, like video games, you need to be where the gamers are. And Twitch really stood out. It was really Twitch or YouTube, or at the time, some true facts. We gave some serious consideration to going to Mixer at that time, which was open and up, and we almost did it actually. But for whatever reason, we went with Twitch at the end of the day, and good thing we did because Mixer ended up closing like 6 months later. Was not much later after the fact. So it would have just been we have to pack it up and move it again. But so for recording virtually, so we switched in 2020, and just because now our whole lives and our routines have changed since then, we never came back to doing it in the same space. We sort of just pivoted permanently to virtual, so that way my co-host can do she's a huge Dead by Daylight streaming person and loves to stream that game, and she always does a stream like after the show, so that allows her, if she was having to drive from my house back to her house, she wouldn't be able to really do that.
Right.
So she can do that after the show with that. So we've kind of stayed in the virtual environment. It just works for us. From a technical perspective, how we do that is that I run a Discord that takes up my right monitor. We all get together on Discord in a secret channel, and we set up some shots in advance where I kind of capture the windows, and I have a shot for when 3 of us are connected, and I have a shot for when 2 of us are connected, so I can flip between them because as people drop off on Discord, it'll change the configuration of the windows, which is a little bit annoying. But as long as you think ahead and you set those shots up, it's good. And then I do a virtual camera stream back through Discord. So through OBS, you can stream, you can record, you can virtual camera. And I do all 3 of those at the same time so that the virtual camera can go back to my co-host on Discord so they can see what's going on. So it is, I know it sounds like a lot, and it is, but it's just a lot of testing that you kind of do behind the scenes to make that work. And then, it's from a high level how we make it work.
So the non-video game versus video game, it's not necessarily simpler. You don't need less. It's just a lot of a different type of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Actually, I found the setup for non-video games to be much more complicated than video gaming because with the game, it's your mic and your computer and you're looking at it.
And you have a camera right above you.
I'm setting up like 3 or 4 cameras and figuring out which one I need to be looking at and for which activity that I'm doing whenever I was cooking. So that was a challenge.
Yeah, when I was doing the Lego builds, it's like you have like the camera here, but you're going to be looking down like doing the build, so you don't want to have the camera in a spot where it's just looking at the top of your head. But then you want another camera to actually be on whatever it is you're building and have a good angle. And then I learned that you just kind of use the better camera on what the detail oriented stuff of what you're
Yeah,
doing.
that's I did a Lego stream a while ago, and I ended up just having a like my main camcorder, which I use for all of my main shots, just on a tripod on top of my TV right in front of me, just pointing right down at the Legos where I was crafting them. Just a little webcam on the side. It works.
And then when you're just starting out with that type of thing as well, is if you only have one camera, don't have it on your face at all. Actually have it on what you're doing versus you. But if you have multiple cameras, like when I first started doing that, I actually used my phone as the second camera because Elgato has programs on your phone that you can use that as an additional webcam and actually feed that through OBS, as long as your computer and your phone are on the same Wi-Fi network. That's how they'll talk to each other. And if you're not using it as your main way of streaming, you don't even have to get the paid version, because the paid version, you can use a microphone and you can use that. But if you're just using it as a camera, when you have all of the other things, you can use a free version and it works just fine.
I would definitely say spend a lot of time setting it up and seeing what it looks like before you try to jump in and realize, oh no, my cameras are not in the right place.
Right. All right, so how I like to do these panels, because I know everyone comes to this one to try to learn how to do streaming beyond video games. So I feel like everyone has questions. We could sit here and talk at you, but I really don't think that helps answer any of the things that you're trying to do. So so if you have a question, you can please come up to the microphone and make sure you speak loudly, and we will answer. If no one wants to be the first question, I'm pretty sure we can find some more stuff to talk about up here. Microphone.
You go up to the microphone.
Yep. Yep, there you go. Hi.
You guys take too much time to do this on your computer. Get a Nintendo Wii.
Get a Wii. I think the Wii's older than you.
It is. I play at home, and it's older than me. I really don't care. You need to take a break every so often and do something active.
Oh yeah. Very much
That's
so.
what I'm doing.
Yeah,
That's what I'm doing.
I'll play Nintendo this afternoon, I promise.
Well, I think a healthy streaming and physical balance is important. You may not know by looking, but I do try to walk about 7,000 steps a day, and you can actually incentivize that through gaming, which is kind of fun. Through things like Pokemon Go is kind of what everybody knows, and Pikmin Bloom, Monster Hunter Now is kind of a new thing that's really popular. There's a lot of good ways to sort of incentivize that type of stuff. But you do bring up a good point, if nothing else, about making sure you have a balance between what it is you're doing at your computer and actually going out and getting activity and all that good stuff. But
For me, I think it's the opposite. Where every now and again, I just need to sit down. and
Yeah, I
take a
feel
break.
like
That's fair.
blacksmithing
Yeah,
is
that's fair.
probably quite a physical,
Yeah.
strenuous activity.
There's many times during a stream, I'm just like, okay, I just need to take a minute. Let me drink some water, please.
You have a next question, please?
Hard to follow that. So, all right, basics on software. So I set up multiple cameras. What is the easiest to learn to use software to put it all together and then upload it to like YouTube? That's the second part of my question. What platforms do y'all upload your content to and why?
I exclusively use Twitch and TikTok, so I don't really have any expertise as far as uploading edited video to YouTube. So if someone else wants to kind of take over with that part.
Sure. If you're streaming, if you're live streaming, I've started streaming with OBS, with just regular OBS, and it is a powerful tool if you know what you're doing. It can be a little user unfriendly at first. The Streamlabs version, Streamlabs OBS, is a little bit more, is a little easier. There's a lot more guides online on how to plug things in, and it's a lot more intuitive. So I'd recommend trying something like that as well. As far as uploading video and streaming on which platform is easier, Twitch by far has been the easiest for me.
Yeah, because Twitch, you can just plug in, start up the stream, and then you're going as long as your cameras are all good and hooked up. But
Yeah, Twitch is very, very easy once you have it set up. YouTube, it seems to be a little bit more particular and a couple extra steps as far as making sure it's live in YouTube and making sure it's live in your software. Where as a Twitch, you just hit the button on your streaming software and it's go. TikTok, I haven't played around with a lot, so I couldn't speak to that, and I don't know if anybody else has.
If you're just doing like content where you're doing your live videos, it's fairly plug and play. It only gets complicated with TikTok when you're trying to do the video game side. That requires a lot of extra steps, but we're not doing that part right now. So.
You want to stream your thing, you use that, like you want to do multiple things, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all at the same time. You use StreamYard, connect them all at one time, and they go live all.
It also kind of depends, again, like obviously you have all of these different options and the way you can kind of dole out your content, for doing a podcast, which is, traditionally audio only, which is what we do that all through OBS. We actually record a local video while it's going out to Twitch, and Adobe Audition can actually import movie files, and you just are working with the audio from the movie. So that's how we do OLR, is that we record the local file. It's a large file, it's many gigs, but the hard drives these days are huge enough to fit it. And then I usually delete it. Once it's done, I just delete the video, because the other nice thing is Twitch always keeps a backup for 2 weeks. Unless you go in and save it, Twitch will keep a backup. And I think this isn't on by default. You have to go in the settings and enable this. Twitch
used to be on by default.
It was, and it used to be a month, but they.
But if you're like
Oh, and so it's like if you've streamed maybe too many hours or something, they might, yeah. Oh, they have to mute the audio. Yeah, that's a really good call. That actually is a really good call out. If you're relying on that system for Twitch to be your backup, they're going to silence anything that's live music and audio. And a lot of things in that space is changing right now with the new DJ rules. And I think it's getting extra sensitive in that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
They can't stop you from recording locally. So, yeah. Yeah, but just wanting to kind of stress the importance about, you have all these options. You just kind of have to think through that flow chart. Try to imagine that flow chart. How are you going to get from the product that you're making to what your output is? And you see that there's many different paths that you can go down to do that. So, again, I like to do the local video, and that way I have that to dump into the audio. But if I wanted to go make it, if I had the time to go and clip little pieces of a 2-hour show for TikTok and things, I could do that. I believe someone in the room may have more experience than me on this. I believe your Twitch clips, because people can clip on Twitch now too. I believe those can. I know you can save YouTube clips. You can export things to YouTube automatically. I think they're introducing that for TikTok. Yeah. I thought that was the thing they were bringing in, that you can do the clips over to TikTok. So
that way you can have those like, oh hi.
Yeah.
Me.
Again, many different branches on how to get it done. You just kind of have to think through. All right, how do I get from point A to point B? Because there's many different tunnels to get there.
So now, as far as podcasting or any of those types, now, do you recommend getting specific equipment to make sure everything sounds really good, or is it okay to just start with what you have, where you begin, or what is like a good beginner spot for equipment to do these things? Because everyone always comes in and like, oh, I got to get the best stuff because this streamer said so, or this advertisement said this is the best, and just because someone else like says it's the best, it's usually because they have some sort of endorsement deal or something like that. So if you're trying to get like very crisp audio or very clear pictures, what is the recommendation for equipment that you have for people?
As far as audio equipment goes, it can be very tempting to go out when you're starting and buy all the best gear and get all the most expensive stuff and say, oh, I have the best microphone, I have the best preamp, I have all the best cords and the best computer and all this stuff, so it's going to sound great. The very first thing you do is make sure you have your concept and content down. Make sure you know what you're making, what you want to make, and what the end product is going to look like in your head at least. The second thing is you can have all the most expensive audio equipment in the world. If your recording space isn't properly set up, it's going to sound bad. And actually, the more expensive your microphone is, if your set isn't set up properly, the worse it will sound, because it will pick up all of those echoes and any other background sounds in your space.
AC going on.
Yeah, the AC going on, anything like dogs barking outside, stuff like that. So looking up videos on how to do proper sound treatment for your rooms. what to put on the walls, how to set up your room, where to set up your recording equipment in your room, where should you be facing. All these things are important. So making sure that your recording space is going to sound good is the first most important thing. When I first started doing YouTube videos, I did all my voiceovers in my closet. I would sit down in my closet and have my microphone right in front of me and record everything. Now, I was only making 7 to 10 minute videos. It wasn't a big deal. I was hunched over. I'd get in and out pretty quick. But in your closet, you've got a whole bunch of clothes, and those are great at absorbing sound. So if you don't have a lot of money to go with to go for soundproofing, professional soundproofing, or even the budget stuff, you've got a closet. You probably got clothes in it. You can go. I mean, seriously, like you can go in there, record it. It'll sound great. So even a budget microphone or a mid-range microphone will sound excellent if you set it up correctly and you have your space set up correctly.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, with Bosch, we have a really nice setup, but I started another podcast with a friend of mine who has no equipment or anything. So I set him up with like a Shure SM58, a Scarlett, and then moving blankets to make basically what is a little sound booth in his basement. And so we were able to get him started for like under $200 with stuff that works well enough for editing purposes.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a challenge if you are doing recordings in different spaces and how to balance the sound coming from 2 different sets of equipment, 2 different locations, and then having it be a consistent sound going through a stream. Because it's not like with TV, it's like your TV show is this volume, and then the commercials are up here, and then you go back down here. So if you're trying to balance the 2 different sounds, is there like a program, or is it just a manual balance that you have to do to get that sound even coming from different spaces?
Oh yeah, I mean we get him to set his levels correctly, but then we use just Audacity and to do sound removal and then level it and try to make the peaks match the rest of the sound of our line so that we're all about the same volume for the editing process. But yeah, editing is what gets you there.
If you're not familiar, Audacity is free online. It's a pretty powerful digital audio recording software, and it does basically everything you need for free online.
I want to give a take on this question as well, because I mostly agree with what's being said, but there's a key thing for me that I think is also very important when you're going through this process, because a show or a regular thing, and keep in mind, I'm coming from podcast world, so I'm always thinking of show, but a show never stopped, or a regular commitment never stopped because the sound quality was bad. It stopped because people got burned out. They felt like it wasn't the project they really wanted to do in the first place. It wasn't the habit they wanted it to be. So I think what you really need to do is you need to just do it. You need to get in there with what you have and the equipment you have. Even if you're not even at the point where you're necessarily streaming it yet, start to make that routine, especially if this is going to be collaborative with other people. Make that routine of every, Friday night we're going to get together and do this or what have you, and try to, everybody can stream with one of these at this point, which I'm imagining most people in the room have. You can get started with one of these. Is it going to be the best sound quality in the world? No. Is it going to help you get discovered and get popular? Debatable. But those are things you can work on once you sort of commit, like, yes, this is something I want to do and I want to explore, and I'm willing to make that monetary commitment because I know I have that mental commitment now to that too. That's just like really important, and I think can't be understated, because I just hate seeing people spend thousands of dollars and so many like Best Buys and equivalent stores now, influencers and content creation has become such a big thing. It is very easy to walk into a Best Buy and get what I would think is a reasonably priced Wave 3 or, similar type of microphone, about $100. And that is going to be just fine for what you're trying to do. A-okay. The biggest streamers use reasonably cheap equipment. You'd be surprised. So once
use the expensive ones, are usually able to give it to them.
Yeah. But I would just hate to see somebody spend thousands of dollars on that and then they don't make it past 10 episodes or 10 recordings or whatever it is, and it's like it kind of ended up being wasted money. It's like a gym membership you never use. But I'm not blacksmithing, which is a completely different sort of thing. So like what I just said may not apply, and I respect that.
So I feel like you have a different issue with sound, because if you're making noise, blacksmithing is not quiet.
Yeah, no.
But you also don't want to deafen people that come to your stream.
Need to make it. I still need to learn to mess with like noise canceling and like balancing through OBS. I've tried doing a little bit of that, and I think I've gotten a little bit more equal. But there's still the times where I'm just like, okay, I can't talk now because the hammering is just taking over everything that I'm gonna be saying right now, and that's why at some point at some of my forging streams, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna tag this as ASMR. I have enough
Yeah, I
people
feel
that
like
like
that's
this
what you could do.
stuff
It could
to
be
just
like an
listen to in the
ASMR type thing.
background. So just here we go, and hear me cussing every now and again. And it's the deal.
Because when I did the Lego streams, I really didn't talk that much. It was like a Friday during the day stream, and I would put on like really relaxing like music. There was a streamer that's in our local Twitch community here. He now has moved to Japan, but he makes lo-fi sounds for background Twitch streams, which is really good for like if you're doing some kind of art and craft where you're not talking the entire time. You still don't want it to be silent. You still want noise, you still want ambient noise, and just something that's not going to that you could also talk over when you do want to talk.
Yes.
And having something that you're not going to get in trouble for is a really, really good idea as far as a background type sound if
That's
you're
one
not
thing
doing
I'm
a
always
podcast like talking stream.
Yeah. That's something I'm always having to struggle with as well, because I do have like some background music, just because again there's that moments of just like it's just quiet for a little bit because I'm shuffling stuff around or something. I'm just like, here's some quiet music just in the background that I'm trying not to be too loud that I can talk over.
Right. And that's good because you do want to have noise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm assuming that most people in here probably stream something because that's kind of why you are here. So who streams? Probably when you're older. So what do you stream non-video games? Do we stream? So what do you stream that's not video game? For wrestling? That's kind of cool. Yeah, because you're putting out stuff that you don't have rights to. So I can totally get that. Who else streams not video games? Okay.
Very cool. Yeah, nice.
Who over here? Programming? Like that's kind of cool. That's something.
So you do the programming and the coding live on the stream?
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing work. So something really important to me, at least when I'm a Twitch viewer, is chat interaction and just having like some sort of conversation going on most of the time.
Yeah.
But programming takes a lot of concentration, and something that I've struggled with is keeping a conversation going while focusing a lot on whatever I'm doing. So do you guys have any tips for like, I guess that context switching of going back and forth between having a conversation, then doing what you're doing, and not losing track of what you're doing on both fronts?
I think that's a good one for you because you've mentioned that one before.
It's definitely a challenge to try and figure out when there's a good stopping point to be able to like, okay, now I can respond to chat. But at least with how it sounded like your setup is, you're at least like you can just turn your head, look at another screen that has your chat up. I'm like 20 feet away, 10 feet away sometimes. So, but having that ability, just like being able to just go like, okay, I finished this line of code. Now I can look over, read whatever is going on in chat, respond how you can, and you won't be able to like respond to every bit and keep up with every bit of chatting. If you want to, you're able to scroll up in chat, catch up on whatever messages are going on. But a lot of it's just going to be like, however you can do it, keeping up as much as you can.
Finish that bracket and say, oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
I would have a suggestion too, and that would be, if you're finding that you're struggling, let me just ask honestly, is this a problem for you that while you're kind of concentrating, you have a hard time like filling the air in the room? Like you feel like people are just kind of watching you go, you know,
Yeah,
while you're doing that. Okay, so here's my advice on that situation, because I've gotten this question times before about what do I do if I have an empty chat room? You know, people don't want to watch streamers who aren't talking, but if nobody is talking to me in chat, which is, let's be real, going to be the case until you know, just have that stream of luck and you build your, you know, community and so forth, to build that. How do I make myself more engaging? And I would say, let your inner voice out, which can be a very dangerous thing, but especially with something like programming. You know, and I play a lot of video games, and I profess I don't know about how to program those games. So I would find it very fascinating if you were kind of explaining, so this is why I'm, you know, kind of putting this different line down, and this is what I'm kind of thinking about now. I'm going to stew for a moment and think about X, Y, Z, you know, and maybe in those sorts of circumstances, chat could be a resource. It was like, I'm not sure if I should do X or Y. What do y'all think in chat? You know, and let that be maybe like a mental break for you a little bit. But I think if you let that inner voice out, it also helps you be more engaging to your chat and fill in that space that sometimes feels a little bit dead. Don't be afraid to let people know what you're thinking. I mean, in the right context, right? Don't be afraid to let people know what you're thinking. They're there to see you anyway.
Okay, that makes sense. So kind of like say what I'm thinking, what I'm working on, maybe throw in some like edutainment, teach them what I'm doing, and then like fish for engagement or like
That's generally what I do as well. When I'm working on something, I'll be like, okay, like I'll take a minute, just draw on my anvil, just go like, okay, I'm gonna be making it more this way. I'm turning it this direction. I'm gonna be hammering on these sides, as well as there's points where like there's nothing going on in my head other than elevator music, and then that's all I'm putting out there into the microphone while I'm hammering. So.
Yeah. And sorry, I know it's not supposed to be about video games, but when I am streaming something like, let's say, Baldur's Gate 3, and I don't have a very active chat room, I might be saying, so, you know, I'm thinking about going with this response, but sometimes it's kind of fun to be bad. And we'll do that, you know, and I'm kind of, you know, talking about through that why I'm going to choose the response I did.
You're your own narrator.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, guys.
I mean, with the talking part, when I used to do progression rating in WoW, it got to the point that I wasn't allowed to stream and do progression stuff because I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
I couldn't focus on what I'm doing and talk to chat at the same time. So I got forbidden to do that because I'd die. I would start talking to chat and just like run off somewhere, pull the boss, go do whatever. And it's like, Phaedra streaming is itchy.
I think that's a very good point about could the actual act of streaming be distracting to what you're doing? I'm especially kind of looking at the blacksmithing, cooking people on the panel. Like, is this actually distracting in a way?
There's definitely sometimes it can be, but a lot of times I'm generally just mainly focused on what I'm working on, and then like I'll have to like make sure I'm just out of the way of this camera. I'm not blocking it. My bald head isn't shining up into it. But yeah, there's definitely sometimes where I'm having to just be careful of what I'm doing and paying special attention.
Camera angles definitely when you're doing other things can be awkward. As far as getting stuff done. If you have a question, the microphone, yeah.
Come on up to the mic.
Yeah, they know they're not being ignored. It's just, hey, I'm focusing, then I'm gonna take my break and do this, and do this, and do this. That's a really good idea, actually.
That's a great point to manage your audience's expectations about what your engagement with them is going to be when you're doing what you do. Because if they understand, hey, you know, he's concentrating on coding, or he's trying not to slice his finger off, or he's trying not to put a hammer through his hand.
To burn a hole in my foot.
Yeah. If he's trying to do that, it's going to be 10 minutes, then he's going to look at my chat. Okay, that's fine. I'll watch what he's doing for now.
That'll be something I'll have to add on mine.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be really helpful for you, honestly.
It's a very interesting dance too when you think about also adding in your ad breaks into all of that. If that's a road you're going to go down, you know, maybe sometimes those ad breaks can be very helpful. Like I love to do them when I'm like, okay, I need a bio break. Let's take an intentional 3-minute break. I'm going to do ads right here, you know, to take the pre-rolls and do that. But then that adds a whole other interesting layer to the dance when, you know, I need focus time, ad time. Yeah.
Right.
For
first of all, one check to another. Mad props that you were able to do both at once.
Cheers.
But holy crap.
I tried it like one time, and it was like,
I don't even
You
have
got-
the energy to make my own food when I get home from work.
Right,
I can't
yeah.
imagine then streaming food.
I am now opening a McDonald's bag.
Yeah, exactly. My question is, I think one of the things that's really stopping me from getting started is this constant need for perfection and how I, due to my own mind, can't allow myself to fail. You know,
we
that
talked about
sense-
this last night
Yeah.
with the whole
Yeah,
imposter
no,
syndrome
yeah,
thing.
right.
That sense of like any one mistake and it's ruined. Like I can't.
So
like,
for that is, and what we talked about yesterday is that your audience doesn't know what you're supposed to be doing. They don't know what the finished project is really going to be. They do not. You could have a written out plan of what you're doing, but they don't know that. So you're your own worst critic when it comes to that. So totally get it. But your audience does not know if you make a mistake unless you tell them. So you can just kind of go with it. And it takes a lot of talking yourself through it. But I feel like not going in there with that expectation that it's going to be perfect, because let's be for real. Is it ever? So you just kind of go with it, and you can use those parts where it doesn't go correctly as a learning experience. There are with even as something like Legos, there are many times when I was doing the big Lego builds that I would get an hour into the build and realize I missed like the third step.
Yeah, yeah. I would
When I
know
was doing the
anything
big
about that with this.
Because when the big helmets and stuff first
Oh
came out,
yeah.
the TIE fighter helmet,
Oh yeah.
I had to unbuild that 3 times on stream
Oh.
because at the time my kid was doing digital school at home. So of course I was kind of trying to do all of it because she's sitting over there in school. Why can't I do this too?
Mhm.
But then you get distracted, and then there's the cat runs off with a piece. You know, it was
Mhm.
all a big old mess.
You,
So
and you wonder if it's are you chewing on a piece? Get back here.
right, like where did it go? So you have to unbuild it. And there was one stream that I was doing one of them that I actually had to end stream because I was about to. And I was like, we're gonna end right now before y'all see Legos go all over the house. So I will see y'all tomorrow. And that was that. You know, but then I came back the next day and we finished it and it was fine. But it's just like you either have to be funny with it and just go with it, or make it a learning experience of learn. And I actually learned from that to stop using the booklet because now you can get all the different instructions digitally. So I would put that up on a different screen. So now I'm not worried about the page flipping or the cat running off of the book or me dropping water on it or whatever. I actually learned that that was a better way of doing it than using the paper version. And actually, once I started doing that, I had way less mistakes.
Great. Thank you.
So
I would also say, like, depending on what you're working on as well, that you're working about mistakes. If it's something small and you're like, oh, I can restart this, fine, whatever. Don't worry about it. You can restart, and people will just be like, you can just say, hey, having to restart this, and nobody will mind. There's many times where I've been starting up on something, and then I'm just like, I cut this piece too short. Okay, this piece is going to be over in the scrap pile for a little bit. I'll go back at it later. Maybe not this stream, maybe not the next stream, but it'll be sitting there, and then I'll start up on another part. So,
And I would also say, if you're going to do something, start out your first couple with something very basic that you know already, so that you already know the process like the back of your hand, so you can focus more on the tech and the interaction, and then you can progress to things that you don't know. Like I did a one where I was making bagels, and I never made bagels before, and they came out and they looked great, and I did not tell anybody that they were terrible, but I was like, these are beautiful. So it's
I
okay
think the
to-
one cooking stream that I did, like the soup was so inedible. I think I missed like an ingredient. It looked pretty,
Yeah, no one knows it was.
but they didn't have to eat it.
Someone was following along going, what is she talking about?
Right?
Thank you.
I just want to quickly add first, your outfit's incredible, and I can tell head to toe you made that. And is that the kind of thing you're into streaming? You think? 'Cause
I'm
your
hoping
hats-
to maybe
incredible.
just some sort of crocheting.
Is the
just so-
staff also crochet? It looks from back here. It looks like it might be. Sorry, everyone. I have to know. Yeah, exactly. Shiny. It's that. You
It's
get me.
PVC and
But the
EVA
ball,
foam.
that's a ball yarn.
It's my crochet ball of power.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
That is awesome.
That is awesome. Okay. now that I've seen that, I want to for your benefit. I think earlier in the room we polled, and could you raise your hand for me if you're a streamer? You are currently streaming. Raise your hand. Okay, great. We have a good. Okay, keep those hands up. Keep your hand raised if your stream is perfect. All right, you are going to be in good company. So jump on in. All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, even those of us that have been doing it for years, how many times have you left yourself muted after a break?
So many.
The amount of times I've started stream and been muted.
Right. Like,
I haven't realized for an hour. I'm just like, I'm already half.
and nobody tells you, right?
Yeah.
You're like,
22 years, and it happened to me on Sunday. So
so,
Rob, Mike.
so yeah, perfection is never going to happen.
Speaking on that, I had an entire stream where you could not hear me for whatever reason. My mic wasn't working, so you could only see like the video of me playing Portal and nothing else.
Yeah.
But talking about kind of the crafty stuff is like I don't do like right now. All I'm streaming is video game stuff, but I also use a PNG tuber. I don't want to show my face on stream.
Mhm.
Do you think if I had like a top-down camera focused on whatever kind of craft stuff, because I've done like diamond paintings, crochet, like all sorts of different stuff. Do you think like that with maybe the PNG tuber on the side would still work?
Yeah, you can definitely.
That's
do
what
that.
your brand is. That's what you do. So why would you change that just to do a non-video game?
Okay, I just kind of wanted to get an opinion on that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
totally.
And then, like-
One of my friends that actually was on this panel last year, that was going to be on this panel this year, but couldn't because his cousin decided to get married this weekend. Like, come on, dude.
What a jerk.
Right? He does. He's a VTuber, but he does tarot card readings and
And
live
pinball.
And yeah, that one's super fun. Right? And I love it when he talks about the pinball because sometimes he'll go to actual arcades and he has to talk about the streaming equipment he has to bring with him to stream in public and the sound and all of those things. But he does the VTuber stuff when he does the tarot. And so like the character up there and then the little table with the cards and it's super, super cool. Make it really quick, kind, because we try to get to everybody, okay? Because you already asked one question.
I want to know like stuff to do before you start a channel.
That's a whole different panel.
Wait, what?
That's a getting started in streaming is a whole different panel, but we can help you out with that later, okay?
Okay. Wait, it's the next time?
It's a different one.
Different one.
Can we go down this time?
Check your app.
You're
Or
fine.
I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
No,
you're
No,
good.
I.
Sorry.
No,
That is what
The
this is
cosplay
about.
struggle is real. Please.
I'm in
trying
this
to
giant
switch
hoop
my tail
skirt.
currently,
I'm in this
so-
giant hoop skirt. Once I stand up, it goes out. And
No problem.
All good.
But I'm new to streaming. I just started. I just finished my computer and getting everything set up. But I'm still trying to figure out my concept. Like you did the Lego builds, you did like the blacksmithing and everything. How did you guys know that was something that you really wanted to do, or you knew that you were going to go forward with it? Like I'm still trying to figure out, should I go into the gaming or should I do?
What do
like
you
I-
like to do?
Okay.
Yeah,
Touching on exactly
What do
what
you like to
was
do?
just asked is, when I want to start streaming, what do I do? What do you enjoy? What are you going to get the most enjoyment out of? Because just going and doing what you think other people might want to see is never going to be the best choice. Because if it's not something that you like and something that you enjoy and something that you're passionate about, you're gonna burn out really quickly. You're not going to put your effort into it. You may do it for a little bit, but you're gonna get burnt out really quickly. Do what you like, and the rest of it will come to place because it'll all fall in. You'll be like, oh, I want to do this. You get really excited about what you're doing. You'll have new ideas, whether that be a game or an art. 'Cause people are like, oh, well, I want to play the most popular game that just came out. Yeah, so does everybody else. If it's the type of game that you don't enjoy, like I would never play a Call of Duty game no matter how much someone tried to pay me to play it, because it's not something that I'm going to enjoy doing. If someone wanted me to draw on stream, not going to happen. But Legos and cooking and video games and stuff like that are things that I enjoy and I have fun with. And that's the best advice I give anybody that wants to get into any type of streaming is do what you enjoy.
Yeah, there's gonna come a point when you're 5-10 weeks into whatever it is you're doing where you're sitting there going, you know what, I could do a stream, or I could go sit there and binge TikToks or go watch Netflix or do something like that. And I want to warn you that that's a yellow flag right there at that point. I'm not gonna say it's a red flag because mental health breaks are important. As they say on TikTok, very demure, very mindful to take mental health breaks once in a while. But the more you do that and the more you start to let yourself prioritize those other things over this obligation, it's going to be harder to retain an audience. It's going to be harder to build a following and do all of those types of things. So you have to do that thing where, you know, when it comes to do that or go do something, you know, a little bit mindless or whatever it is, you know, I'm going to always choose this other thing, or 9 times out of 10, I'm going to choose this thing. Yes, but you still, yeah, and as I say, you have to allow yourself that breaks in that mental health space, but at the same time, the more you choose to do that, the less, you know, the more you're going to sacrifice everything you're trying to build with what it is you're doing.
When you started streaming, how long did it take you to figure out, oh, this is going to work? I have an audience. Like, there's a lot of people start streaming and like, nobody's watching, and nobody cares. Like, what was each of yours like?
I'm still at that phase. I'm still like at the phase where I'm just like, we'll see if somebody comes into my stream today. We'll see. I had a piece of advice that I got a few years ago from this panel, which was when you're starting out and you're like worried about like, do I have people that are liking this? And you're starting to get into the weeds of just, am I doing good? Turn off the view count. Like,
I always recommend having the view count on. I have mine off right now because I've taken a lot of mental health breaks over the last year, going through a divorce and all these other fun things. So I don't have the spoons to do content creation the way I did 4 years ago. But when I do, yeah, it's so great.
Yeah, and I'll be
so now when I go back, it's like nope,
count, so
nope.
You don't need to have that up and look at it while you're streaming. It's been so helpful for me when I turn that off. I'm just like, now I don't need to worry that my numbers are staying there and that there's people watching me.
Yeah, super nice.
And that's where again, where being passionate about what you're doing is really, really important, because yeah, if you're looking to make money off of it or make a career out of it or build an audience about it, that's great. But sometimes you have to really have that genuineness and that passion come across to the people you're trying to put it out. Have the mindset that you're doing it for its own sake. I'm doing this because I love it. I'm doing this because
for yourself.
I like
doing it.
I'm doing it for me, and if other people like it, great.
Don't go into it. Go, hey, I'm doing it so I can pay my bills next week. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean,
people see that. That's when you like see those streamers sometimes that they're trying so hard to be so relevant, and they get super stressed when the numbers aren't there. They get super stressed when they're not getting the view count, and you can see them getting frustrated.
Yes.
And to be honest, everybody's lives are stressful. The last thing anybody really wants to go do in their own downtime is go watch somebody else be super stressed about something. It's your relaxing time. It's your downtime. You want to be entertained. You want to be enjoying what it is you're watching. So you want to be watching someone that is enjoying what they're doing, that is passionate about what they're doing.
Piggybacking off of that for a minute too. Another thing that I've always been concerned about is the negative comments, the hurtful comments, the mean stuff that people say. How do you guys get into that mindset of kind of just like brushing that off and not really like letting it affect you if you're on stream or even if you're not on stream? Like how mentally?
So as a female, sometimes you get certain comments on your streams. For me, on my streams, I actually have a huge blacklist of words of phrases that'll never appear on my stream. So I don't have to see it. You know, you have to sit down there and think about every single negative thing someone can say about you and then type out all those words. And so they don't come up on your stream. I also have my real name, my kid's real name, my address are all in that blacklist of words that will never show up on my stream. Because I also do adult content, and so I don't want all of those things to get out there if someone were to run across those and come on my stream like, oh, this is her name, oh, this is where she lives. Those are all blacklist words for me. But as far as when you do read them, you have to understand that people say negative things because they are unhappy with themselves. And what they are saying to you to get a rise out of you is more of a reflection of them and what is going on in their life than anything that you are doing. And you just have to, unfortunately, you do have to ignore it and let it roll off of you and be like, that is a reflection of them. That is how they perceive themselves, not how they are perceiving you. They are projecting their own issues onto what they are seeing. And you just kind of have to be like Like I've done TikTok videos where like, I'm really sorry about what's going on in your life, that you feel that you need to come online and berate somebody because you're in a bad mood today.
And
That is how I handle it. And then it makes them feel really, really small.
I got one question. How do you guys juggle between having like a full-time job and all your responsibilities and dedicate a good amount of time to streaming? Because I've always been told that it's like you have to stream X amount of hours per day or per week and all this other stuff. Like, how do you guys manage to get the time in?
Lots of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, we have like a set time, a set day that you have the time to do it, and just do it every time.
But that might not work for everybody. What I do is I just kind of do sporadic streams. Like I'll be like, I have time and I have energy this morning before work. I can pop out an hour or two before I leave for work in the afternoon, and then, or if I have a free weekend, then I'm able to spend a few more hours on. I'll spend a few extra hours on stream doing my forging stuff then. So it's really just sporadic throughout the week. I'll try and be like, I'll at the end of the end of the stream, I'll just try and go like, we'll see if I can do this tomorrow. I'll try. If not, though, oh well. And then just kind of keep going at it with that is how I've been doing it.
I think I saw we have some stream questions too from the live stream.
Yeah. So, it kind of goes along with that same concept.
Okay, so what I do for that is most streamers at this point, we tend to have more than one monitor, or we have like a tablet or something. If I'm at my computer doing other things, working on my social media, working on my editing, working on other things, I'll have a Twitch stream on the other monitor where I can kind of watch and interact with other communities while I'm doing something. One, it gives me some noise and background and kind of helps me focus a little bit more because it's not just silence in my room. And that's kind of the way that I try to balance. I'm already sitting there. I'm already in front of the computer. So I'm not taking time away from the rest of my life where I need to be doing other things. I'm kind of, multitasking because that's what we do with everything, right?
Sure. And another great way, especially if you're streaming on Twitch, you don't have to be in somebody's chat every day. If what you're looking at is maintaining relationships with people that you develop relationships with, you don't have to be in somebody's chat every day. And if you're streaming, they understand, and they're streaming, they understand that you're streaming sometimes. Sometimes they can't show up in their chat. A really good way to just let them know, hey, like I see you, I still think about you. At the end of your stream, rate them. Like send your viewers their way. They see your name, they know you're thinking about them, and it's a great way to maintain a relationship that even if you don't have time to show up in their chat and talk to them directly.
If it's one of those days or weeks where you don't have the ability to be in other streams, I'm pretty sure you're doom scrolling on another social media platform. Go give some love to their Instagram posts or their TikTok posts or their X, Twitter, whatever it's called posts. That you can show love and interaction with your fellow streamers and communities when you don't have the bandwidth to truly be social.
And I would say if you only have that time slot to stream at, and that's someone else's stream that you usually go to, choose yourself. Totally selfish.
Very true. All right, question?
All right, so of whatever type of thing you do for streaming, when it comes time for, say, having to move to a new location, like having to move to a new home or a new building, how do you adjust to that?
So I moved twice while we were still doing our podcast, and just trying to set up the room that I stream in basically the same way. So I had the same desk, so it's pretty easy to have my computer and everything set up in the exact same way. But in a way, make it so it is as comfortable as possible for you in a familiarity kind of sense, is what I would say. And get it set up as soon as you can, so you can get back to streaming?
I actually made a move during pandemic lockdowns, and it was that change from us doing our show all in person. And we had a spare room. We used the family room in my old house basically as a studio of sorts because it allowed us to all kind of sit around and be collaborative and do the radio show that we were doing. And obviously we did a pivot to virtual that we sort of realized we were never going to really return from. And so at that point, I mean, for me, moving was actually a really good way to be able to reset that space and go, okay, well, now I'm going to go, because, you know, for a while during pandemic lockdowns, I was in this big old room all by myself talking to my co-hosts that were far away, like, hello, you know, it was kind of, but like being able to move allowed me to reset that space and be intentional about it, right? So, you know, when you're going to make a big move, you're going to go to a new space, you're going to be thinking about things like, how am I going to set up my bedroom? How am I going to set up my living room? And you just have to, if you're going to be taking this streaming seriously and it's going to be a part of your life, you incorporate that into that space. And maybe you go, maybe, you know, depending on what type of space you're moving into, I have a wall over here I can paint green that might work really well for what it is I'm going to be doing. Or, you know, I know this is an area I can soundproof. You know, I don't know if your space is small or large, but, you know your constraints with that, and you can figure out how do you just intentionally put streaming into that space. But I find moving to be a really good reset for where I'm at, you know, as far as the technology evolving and changing, and we have things that we can do now we couldn't do before. So
You can make changes that you've been thinking about.
exactly, exactly, 100%.
Right, we have another stream question as well. I'm still working on figuring that one out. Because I've done the hiatus for the better, I think in the last year, I probably streamed on Twitch maybe twice. Because I've moved like 3 times in the last year. So is for me is that I've just tried to stay relevant on other platforms. I tend to, when I can't stream as much on Twitch because of life happening, I tend to be more active on TikTok because it's really easy to post small snippets of things, small videos, to still have that social media relevancy. So you're just not all of a sudden you're gone and then you reappear. I feel like that would be very detrimental to any sort of audience that you do have.
Sure. And an important thing to remember when life does happen to you, especially if it's something personal, is you get to control how much access people have to you and your personal life when you're doing the streaming stuff. Just because you're putting your face or your voice or your interests out there for other people to share with you doesn't mean you have to let them know every single detail of your life at all times. Okay. You know, most people are very okay with saying, we say, hey, life happened, I'm back. And you don't have to go into detail or tell them everything that happened. You don't owe anybody any excuses. You're a human being and you're entitled to a private life just like anybody else. So remembering to set the level of access people have to your personal life to a level that you're comfortable to is an important part of that as well, I think.
I would say to that person too, you know, we've heard a little bit here about, you know, breaking this routine and doing this, you know, the schedule and all that, is that I think a lot of times there's this pressure to hold yourself to some type of standard out there because of what everybody says. This is what you need to be doing. If you want to be a good streamer, this is what you have to do. And, you know, if you are going to rely on streaming for your livelihood, making money, I would say, yeah, some of that does have a point. There are certain things you're going to have to commit to because you're basically saying, this is my job and I'm going to have to commit to that. But I'm getting the sense most people in this room are probably doing it as a hobbyist or in that situation where it's like, hey, and if I make an extra $50 that can buy me something fun once in a while, great. You know, and if that's the case, then I would say there is no standard but your own. So if you're ready to come back from a mental health break, I say the Kool-Aid man, just bust through the door. Hey, I'm here. Let's do it. You know, hit the ground running again and get into it, because there's no right or wrong way, especially when it's your hobby. Do it as you have the capacity to do it. Just manage your expectations for what you hope to get out of it.
All right, so we are at the end of the stream, unfortunately.
If you have
We
any
will
questions,
be
you can
standing
come up
around
to-
afterwards if you have any other questions you want to ask. But if one of you wants to read that real quick, and then I'll reintroduce us again. It's in front of you, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Our track sponsor for 2024 is Zakat. For over 22 years, they've been empowering lives through disaster relief, food distribution, orphan care, and more. Their top-notch ratings from Charity Navigator and Better Business Bureau Wise Giving Alliance means your contributions are going to make a difference. That's Zakat, ZAKAT.org. QR codes on the table to donate online. The Dragon Con charity for 2024 is the Arthritis Foundation. Number one cause of disability, arthritis affects nearly 60 million adults and hundreds of thousands of children. Dragon Con matches up to $125,000. Last year, we raised $272,000 for the 2023 charity.
And once again, I am Phaedra Black. You can find me at phaedrablack.com.
And I'm Rob Roberts from the Voice Geeks Network. That's VOG Network on Twitch and vognetwork.com. And then most of my socials are Mr. Rob Roberts. I don't use Twitter anymore because the guy that runs it's let's go to the next person.
I am He Who Is Steve. You can find me on TikTok, YouTube. You can also find me at Botched Podcast on YouTube, Twitch, and anywhere you can find podcasts.
You can also find me at Botch Podcast, and also you can find Steve and I at DragonKnightAdventureFriends.com. We are a 2-episode, one-shot adventure world-building podcast.
And you can find me on mainly Twitch at Forging Winton, and doing everything from forging to occasional video game streams.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We hope you enjoyed the stream and the panel.
Thank you. Don't forget to like us in the app and leave comments.
Yeah, don't forget to rate in the app.